Each year, the roads program receives $54 million. And the previous council had established Navajo Department of Transportation as a division. And so in moving forward as a division, then part of this initiative is to allow Navajo Department of Transportation to take on responsibilities within the division. And the nature of the agreement is in collaboration with BIA and Navajo Department of Transportation. The responsibilities the NDOT is assuming are responsibilities that Navajo Nation already does. And the budget for that constitutes $10 million out of the $54 million. $44 million would remain with BIA for them to continue to utilize their expertise in engineering processes. This $10 million represents the preliminary part of any road construction. And so NDOT is looking to assume those activities within the roads program. This is only partial of initial initiative in exercising NDOT as a division. Eventually, by projects, they will develop the capacity to enter into the next phase, whenever that might be, to take greater responsibilities to the roads program. One of the main concerns has been the BIA's control schedule. So when you look at the master list developed by each of the 5 agencies, if the recommendation is out 40 years, and to some of the chapters within the areas expecting those services concerning roads, it's almost unrealistic. And so what this initiative does is allow that $54 million through federal highway to be directly given to the Navajo Nation. And the agreement represents the $10 million in what NDOT would do in the preliminary stage, and the $44 million would allow BIA to continue the expertise. Out of this initiative, it's one step closer. Here, particularly, the advantage is allowing Navajo Nation the opportunity to see how these monies are appropriated and how the construction or the control schedule is developed. And so we never had this opportunity. In talking with BIA, we get their consent. So that it's a good process for Navajo Nation to assume. And so in that collaboration, we're here at this point presenting it to you. Thank you.
In regards to this legislation brought forth to you, it's an exercise of self-governance. I think this is a model that we all could utilize as well for federal direct funding to come into the divisions and departments. And Navajo Division of Transportation, with the work that they have, I know that there are a lot of concerns out there when it comes to the partnership between Navajo Division of Transportation and the BIA. And there's a little slowness that happens here. But I think with the approval of this legislation, it will expedite a lot more action, not just at the central government level, but I just want to remind the delegates as well that a lot of discussion has been brought forth in regards to regionalization of services. Even school districts are looking at regionalization. And LGSC services, even attorneys. But now, as you all know, Navajo Division of Transportation, through the leadership of Mr. Paulson Chanko, have had meetings to a regional transportation initiative. And those recommendations are being brought forth. And I just also wanted to mention that our director here, Mr. Tom Patero, his vision is moving forward as well in regards to the regional transportation road yards throughout the Navajo Nation. And in this case, maybe 24 regional transportation yards throughout the Navajo Nation. And with the forward vision of Mr. Chaco here, I think a lot of those services are lacking at these regional centers. A couple of road yards have been built, but those road yards don't have the authority to make those decisions at times. And I see that the vision of the Navajo NDOT here is to be able to move in that fashion to give that decision-making process delegation to these regional centers so that we don't have to always call, say, Benito or Winter in order to get it played out. They should be able to have their own decision-making process at these regional transportation centers. And I think this legislation sets that opportunity up because the funding will come from Federal Highway Administration into the Navajo Nation, and in this case, Navajo Division of Transportation, so that we as decision-makers move in that regionalization concept, because it'll be on us to make that recommendation. And basically, we're saying give us the responsibility that the Secretary of Interior has in regards to the Federal Highway Administration funds to the Navajo Nation. The decision-making process. So I just wanted to mention that as well, and I appreciate Rossville RDC Budget and Finance Committee as well as Mr. Simpson for their vision in city transportation maintenance, and in this case, we're looking at maintenance and planning. Construction, I see it coming down later on, but that will still be the BIA's responsibility. In return, we'll be delegating back that responsibility to BIA with this action that is brought forth today. So I just wanted to also reiterate the building capacity for NDOT that Delegate Smith brought up. It's a good move, I believe, members of the committee. And in regards to the memo by the Controller's Office, the Controller did do a presentation. I mentioned at our presentation at the Budget and Finance Committee that these funds will be evaluated and kept track of by the Navajo Nation to the Controller's Office. So that setup will be done, working in tandem with the Controller's Office, the Navajo Division of Transportation. And one other element that's in this agreement that I want to highlight, and specifically for us as the Budget and Finance Committee as well as the committee, Naa'bik'iyati Committee, is there's an opportunity here to gain interest off of these funds that come into the nation. Right now, when it goes to BIA, there's no investment or interest that's being done. But if it comes to the Navajo Nation, they can put it in an interest-bearing account and actually make money as these monies come into the Navajo Nation. So I just wanted to mention that. We also have Mr. Paulson Chaco here with his staff. We could give some time over to them as well, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and honorable members of the Naa'bik'iyati Committee. Again, as indicated by the two distinguished council delegates here and eloquently put, is that this is an initiative that's one of most unique within the Navajo Nation. None of the other federal programs that the Navajo Nation deal with does this type of direct federal highway or direct agreement. And the opportunity there is now for the Navajo Nation to take one step closer to true self-determination of our transportation system. And we've been in this process for more than a year with Resource Development Committee and the development of this agreement. And with the next step of approving this, then we're in a better position then to streamline our transportation need. So that's basically what we have with the Division of Transportation, is making a organizational difference in streamlining the program that we have in transportation, not only within the Navajo Nation, but outside the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We are now in collaboration with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, as indicated by Mr. Smith. we as Navajo Nation have no control at this point over those construction dollars that we receive. We don't have that control over financially, contractually over those construction programs at this point. Now this gives us the opportunity for the Navajo Nation Resource Development and BNF to actually look at what actually is out there with our construction dollars and what is spent out with our Navajo Nation dollars that the BIA currently oversees. And then the only other thing I'd like to add, Mr. Speaker and members of the committee, is that the RDC did make some amendments into the legislation, so request those to be added to the main motion.
I wanted to ask a quick point of clarification. On the last page, you have kind of a budget, and you have maintenance listed as 3.5 million, as well as 4 million listed under maintenance with BIA. I know that NDOT had contracted with BIA to do some road maintenance, and I would like to ask the question about the previous amount in relation to this amount, and what will be the difference in terms of what roads will BIA cover as well as the NDOT cover. Thank you.
The program currently receives funding from the BIA for activities related to transportation under the 638 contract, 638 law. Now, is this going to be outside this contract? Is it going to be outside of the 638? What is not a direct one-to-one contract with the federal government rather than a 638 type of activity? So under the former Goya, where the tribe receives monies and then they move monies around the way they see fit. On 638, you have to comply with federal government requirements. Those dollars to be where they're spent. There's a lot more control in the 638 mechanism versus the where you just have a direct contract with the government compact governing self-government contractors. Their restrictions are controlling. Yeah. Which one is this? Maybe not the other one, the gay, Mr. Speaker, I also want to add as the language that's the COA, Resident Finance, Speaker.
Yes, nine was not on she kept that's all Kennedy sponsor of baby the kid yeah definitely the shot in yeah kitchen did a teen TC I go a teeny I so equal at BIA officer that I just naked any happening that BIA agent it's not naked out of our shape this she on that a call when set case on that Nabi NDOT Department town 18 is the service not even up base I did to base of Canon day giving the tradition I should thought that men indoor meeting or would it have to be until the next fiscal year having that taken away and then put back under the nation and then having funds to do maintenance to that road area.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Naa'bik'iyati Committee, and staff and advisors and guests, and to the sponsors and presenters on this specific issue presented as NDOT. I'm really tired of BIA saying that they're going to overlook the N20 and N21 roads towards Kaibito and Botaway Gap, and which I'm trying to assist with a whole myriad of departments and divisions to rehabilitate. And they're not stepping up to the plate, and it's becoming a blaming game. I also went to NDOT and contacted some of your staff to get an update on N20 and why they stopped construction from Tonalea to Kaibito with BIA and NDOT. And your staff, Mr. Chaco, with due respect, gave me a blaming game towards BIA. Now, I'm thankful for Coconino County for N20 from Botaway Gap to Coppermine. We're still on the national list of in the top 20, and that's been there for the past 2 years. And I don't see any advocating or lobbying on your behalf for this road. But I do, like I said, I appreciate Coconino County for stepping in and maintaining it. Because NDOT has no money and BIA has no money. And I'm tired of going from these three offices round and round and round. And let me see you try that and smile at the end of the day. It's just frustrating. This money that we're approving for you, is this why you want to take over the contract from BIA or give this new contract with this money that we're going to approve? Is this going to be the money to help finish that road from Tonalea to Kaibito and take this off of BIA's hand? Because at the planning meeting, that's what I heard, that NDOT wanted to take over the project, which I'm very glorified to hear. That's what I want to hear. But I wish BIA was here to hear this too, because they're our trustee. And you're coming in and doing their work as a trustee, which I appreciate. But if you can just clarify if this money is going to go out that way. I support it, but I just want to see something done towards rehabilitation with your part. Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
There is, we see hope that someday we will be able accommodating our people with their road maintenance that we foresee, and that's been long neglected and that's been long overdue. And our division is making a move to say and to tell us that this document is going to make our picture much better than what it is. And I see, however, but I see there's a deception in this move here. As you see the handouts that in this material here, the agreement that's in here, there's a lot of the policies that are administered by the U.S. government and through the BIA. The Untitled Chapter 23 USC, all of the bureaucratic that what the BIA has been carrying thus far. This still applies to this road maintenance that we are given the blessing to take over this. This is the practice that's been provided by BIA. Now that our nation's division is going to practice this as well. I'm certainly not too pleased with the BIA and how they have performed and how they have overseen our tribal transportation system. We're given that responsibility to our division, and we're thinking that we're going to make a difference. forewarning? I don't think so. This is just something that's the policy, bureaucratic policy that's being transferred to the Navajo Nation. At what cost? What additional costs is the nation going to can't afford to accommodate these bureaucratic policies? We talk about top-heavy administration or the organization of the Navajo Nation government. And I think it's important to ask the division, when is the management plan that's going to become about, that they're going to be able to promote and say that this is going to be something different than what the BIA has been promoting? I think until we see that management plan, then we will see the difference of past practice and the future practice. We don't have that. How is the priority going to be established within the nation among the 110 chapters? Priority listing, the expenditure plan, so these type of questions should be something that we need to examine. Other than that, what it is, and this is not a progress to me. Especially with this blue handout that is here that says, we're doing what the BIA is doing already. But we're going to put more additional funding to that practice, that duplication of practice that we have. That's the way I see this. So I think until we see the management plans from the division, then we can see the difference. I'm tired of BIA, but however, this is coming, we're inviting this into our own doors to see a further practice that's within our government as well. But it's just going to cost us more. Certainly looks good to the divisions and to the presenters of the way it's being promoted. I am pleased with it as well, that we can do such a thing. But however, this is the best that we could do. That's just a comment that I have. And the question is, when is that management plan going to come forth for us to examine and to see that this is a positive move? Mr. Chair, thank you.
Reference to the legislation that's presented before us, just want to thank the presenters, sponsors. I just want to share just a few thoughts. I do support the legislation. And, you know, we talk about projects back within our chapters, road projects, and I know there are so many unpaved roads and so many roads that are bad, that our vehicles, you know, take a beating from, you know, going on these roads, and our people have to travel on this road to get into the border towns, to shop, if you will, and you know, keep Gallup booming. I'm thinking of Easter. But I just want to share this, you know, with a lot of teamwork, effort, and a lot of support from chapters. You know, if we continue to have this, projects will continue to happen. This legislation will give more empowerment to NDOT to continue to get these roads done. And I know there's many roads on the reservation. But I want to talk about one road which is located in Pinedale. This road through 50 years, we've tried. I mean, I'm not old here, I'm only, 43, but our past leaders here have tried this amount of years. But with NDOT, with BIA, and I know we've batched BIA too, and I used to say that within our area, But we have a new superintendent that seems to be changing his ways. And to my surprise, it's one of our colleagues, his brother, Mr. Sosi. And this is a big difference when you hear him talk. Mr. Sosi, the superintendent for Eastern Agency, is a yes man. You know, it's a lot different from what we hear. And I say that with all due respect. And so because of that, NDOT and BIA has worked together to gravel at least 2 miles of the 13-mile road that needs to be improved. And I'm telling you, the elders are very pleased in Pinedale, are very happy. And we're still going to continue to finish this off. I know there's a lot of jurisdiction issues such as county roads, state land, well that's on the eastern side. And I know on the Arizona side that's quite different. But with all the multi-jurisdictions that we have to go through, we're succeeding in this. And I mentioned that there's a dinner at Pinedale, and if you're hungry, please drive on by and see this road. This legislation, my colleagues, we approved today, will continue to do more service like that. And we work well with McKinley County. And this, from reading the legislation, will work well with the counties too as well. And so I ask my colleagues here that we support this legislation, that I know not only in Pinedale area, but I know my colleagues, you have road projects within your area that needs to be complete. Continue, once the legislation is passed, continue to call Mr. Chavo and Mr. Bennett in his office, and I know, that they will continue to work hard. So having said this, my colleague, I would just ask for your support on this legislation. And one day with Pinedale Road, 13 miles will be chip sealed. And there's always been roadblocks. You're going through state land, you're going through BIA land, you're going through Alocti's land, and tribal trust. But we put that all aside, and we got things, and the projects are working right now in our area. To my colleagues, I ask that we support this legislation so NDOT can continue to do road service. They have proven that it's not all talk, and they have proven that their work is done and being done. So let's all vote in favor of this legislation, my colleagues. Speaker, sir, thank you.
Committee members here, two sponsors here, Mr. Les, Mr. Smith, Mr. Chago here, legislation also Saudi. I know we're going around and around on this thing here with the resource and development. It was before us. Only time will tell if this legislation will turn the flock into a prince. I kind of doubt it though. We have more money before it. With the rising cost of construction, the only is on. Based on either the doesn't on another. Because the slots that we're careful of this funding. I know there's a word I came across in there, flexible funding. It kind of spooks me. Basically, you have a lot of buddies. Mr. Curry, I'll tell you now, since that's the only thing that my main concern should be. I know they like to get in the parade, they like to toss out all kinds of goodies, and I hope that money doesn't go into become a trash along the street. What I'll tell you, I know I've spoken against this again and again, but I'm not getting anywhere. So, but as I said earlier, this kiss here, I don't expect it. I don't expect the flock to come to Prince overnight. We're going to have to work with BIA real closely. The gap has been there. I have gone to Mr. Riley and talked to him. Have you seen Mr. Chago? What up? I haven't sat down face to face and talked with him, Shaheen. But what else should be? The head needs to get together, get their head together and talk things out, hash things out. What else should be done is that the dot. What other short? Cut out and now the hour. Because as a class about the something you don't, 251 away so hard to be at 18. NDOT and then the chapter, I think they made an agreement with BIA to do the environmental and then archaeological clearance. They took that survey into historical preservation 3 times, it was thrown back to them. Only said, so I'm not claiming that, no. If that continues, what I tell you, Shorty, that's a small, minor project, you know, with our. Not kid, not to over my deal. What I tell you, they don't know this. I've actually been in Schluler edition, I will support it though. Showing out there about e-cause 2 years, 3 years, they take over the shine. As you keep that, what's a lot on the federal government. The other thing is, I don't know how long this agreement is going to be. I know we have met 21 in Derry. The way now kids extending, now to extending others are out of G on the equally over there. So, when they come here, so, non sure you team can do is this little you. Did what's what I do, let you get it. What's something you but not the COVID. The Sunday ocean at say they want you to question my yacht is empty over. What's the reason? How shall Johnson? Are the new? What I see over here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the committee. To address Council Delegate Sinajini's question with regards to N20. As you know that there's 2 questions here. One is on construction and one is on maintenance. On the maintenance portion, Mr. Sinajini, you are aware that we had several meetings with BIA as well as Coconino County in the development of that agreement that is currently in place for Coconino County going on to BIA roads. And we recently received word from Coconino County that the school bus route funds that are allocated for that agreement is dwindling. Those funds are coming from the BIA. Now we are in the process of meeting with Coconino County to address the shortfalls that are coming in. And hopefully by the end of this month, we will have some type of resolution of Coconino County with regards to those funds. Now, most of the council delegates may be aware that school bus route funds are all not in the MAP 21 bill, which means that Coconino County, Apache County, all of the counties will not receive those funds. So there is going to be a limited shortfall or a shortfall in our road maintenance dollars. So we are currently working with all the counties to see how we can address that portion of the need. Now, for respect with N20 road construction, and that road construction dollar, it still belongs to BIA. With this legislation, we are in a better position to sit down with BIA and determine exactly where those dollars are at. Currently, we have no control over the Bureau at this point as to how the funds are allocated, where construction projects are at. But now we are at the table with BIA to answer those questions, sir. There's a question from Lorenzo Curley with respect to 638. Will this replace 638? That one, we will be, this highway agreement will replace the 638 provisions, Mr. Curley. And once we replace those, we will have to limit or cancel all of those 638 contracts that we currently have. And this agreement will be the one that's going to be in place. With respect to the Aspen Loop project, we have finally addressed Aspen Loop after 2003 Hill. We are now in the process of working with Apache County to address those needs as far as road maintenance is concerned. So with additional dollars coming from this agreement, we will address further road needs across the Navajo Nation. So we are addressing your asphalt new projects, sir. There's also a question from Mr. McGinn. As far as one was that the program is top heavy within the Division of Transportation. As council, when you look at our budgets, we have over 80% of our budget out in the field, meaning we have all of our senior heavy equipment operators, we have our operators and laborers out in the field. Only 20% of our allocation goes to Window Rock. Most of our fuel, our equipment, our materials are out in the field. And that's where a majority of our funds are at this point. The other issue that he brought to our attention is how the priority list is going to be handled within Navajo Nation. The priority list still remains. We still have to do a priority list with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Again, in this allocation, you still have $44 million that is still with BIA. The BIA still is going to be our road administrator, road contract, or road construction administrator. They're still going to be our designers. But this allows us to sit down at the table with the BIA, go over those lists with RDC, with BNF, and say this is that's what this legislation does. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure if I addressed all of the questions that have been posed to the division. That's my response, Mr. Speaker.